Hello, everyone. I'm joined today with Mist Sonata, a critic of the GamerGate movement, and we're going to be discussing a number of topics. We had a short list of topics we wanted to cover, but this is going to be more free form. And if we get to those topics, then fantastic. If we don't, then we can try to visit them at the end. And of course, we'll try to take questions from the chat as well. So, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You are a little bit louder now than you were before. Just a heads up.
Oh, really?
You were a second ago, anyway.
I didn't move my mic. Yeah, I guess I kind of projected a little too much. I'm turning my head every which way here. I've got my mic right in front of me. But
That's all right.
Yeah,
You're doing fine now. Hello,
Yeah.
Ryan. Hello, Lord Buckethead. Hope you guys are doing fine. So, Mist, you've talked about GamerGate on Twitter before and dabbled into the conversation with a few other events and live streams, things of that nature.
Mhm.
What would be your take on the consumer revolt, or how would you classify it?
Okay, that's a very, very complicated question. But like I like very briefly, I think it started out with one group who was very very Polish. No, not like it was very much the culture of the pole board on 4chan. It started with that, and it gathered a lot of the people who were kind of the face of Gamergate gradually. And then those original members kind of splintered off into GG Revolt when they felt like it was being co-opted with like the e-celebrities and all that stuff. And I guess they kind of moved on to like an alt-right sort of thing. At least I think most of them did.
Okay, so I do want to address that.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was some overlap with poll people involved with GamerGate, though most of the original topics about GamerGate were on the V board and on Reddit, our gaming and our games in particular.
Right. A lot of them were, but I see that as kind of an overlap, because you have people on 4chan and they go to poll, but they also go to V. I think a lot of people who are on the same sort of political vein as poll kind of gathered up in V to talk about it, if that makes sense.
Well, I'm sure there might have been some overlap, but I don't think most of the people on V are poll, and if they are do post on poll, if they ever have, they're certainly not the the neo-Nazis that poll is sort of semi-famous for.
Yeah, maybe. More like the provocateurs and that kind of thing. But the whole when everything started with conspiracy, it was spearheaded by this group with the Internet Aristocrat and the King of Pole, or not and the King of Pole, but that guy, Internet Aristocrat.
Well, yes, King of Pole and Internet Aristocrat were two people talking about it. I'm not sure you could really call it a group at that point. It was mostly just a bunch of random YouTubers and semi-internet celebrities, YouTubers mostly, sort of making videos about this. Mundane Matt as well, Sargon of Akkad. They all jumped in very, very early on.
Well, it was also the Burgers and Fries IRC channel.
Well, that was yes, but that was a pretty small chat room with a couple hundred people at most.
Okay, yeah, but I think like at the very, very beginning, that was what kind of spearheaded the movement. The videos that Internet Aristocrat made were basically him and Mundane Matt are basically the ones who kind of spearheaded it at the beginning, and then the quote unquote "gamers are dead" articles came out, and I think that's where you said you came in.
Well, no, I found out about the GamerGate articles through a forum post,
Oh,
but
okay.
I did not actually find out about GamerGate itself until February or March 2015.
But yeah, before it was called Gamergate, it was sorry, it was basically known as the conspiracy, right?
Sort of. I would classify that as really before GamerGate. That was one of the events leading up to it, and what really catalyzed GamerGate was the GamersNet articles, and there was a big pushback to that, of course, from a lot of people throughout the gaming community.
Well, here's the thing. What's his name? Uh, the Baldwin guy.
Adam Baldwin?
Adam Baldwin. He's the one who coined the Gamergate hashtag, and in that Gamergate, like the first Gamergate hashtag, was him sharing those conspiracy videos, like the
Yes,
first two.
yeah, I remember he shared it.
Mhm. Have you
And
seen the video of Internet Aristocrat, like his final video to Gamergate?
yeah, yeah.
It's like he was basically just like, you co-opted the movement, and all he had to do was attack, attack, attack. And like from my perspective, like him and this group of people were just kind of the background operators who saw it getting co-opted by like people like you who who actually believe that Gamergate should be about ethics in game journalism and things like developers creative freedom and stuff like that. Like you guys literally took the movement from them, and Internet Aristocrat he was so salty about that.
Well, I mean, I think Internet Aristocrat, he most of his early videos about GamerGate, I mean, he talked about ethics, and before GamerGate even happened, he did a video talking about games journalism.
Hmm.
So I'm not saying that he doesn't care about games journalism, but he did want to make it turn it into a culture war, which it sort of ended up being at the end. But he really wanted to force it into a culture war. I wouldn't say that it was really his movement any more than it was my movement or Low Ping's movement or Nonsensical's movement or
Yeah.
any number of other people. There were always a bunch of people involved from the beginning. And when he says attack, 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 I don't think he's necessarily referring to, oh, go harass these people, go dox these
Hmm.
people. He actually talked in favor of the GamerGate harassment patrol
Yeah.
with Low Ping, and he thought that was a positive thing for GamerGate.
Yeah, I think it was more that he was saying and I can't read his mind, so I don't know for sure, but I think he was more saying to like attack like these social justice uh gaming news uh sites like Kotaku and Polygon.
Yes, and I'm not sure that's the best approach. I think you can disagree with them
Mhm.
and you can criticize their articles, but as long as they are behaving ethically, then that should not really be the focus. Like you can criticize them and disagree with them, but that's separate from ethics.
Yeah, but like early on, I know like I was part of the discussion almost from the very beginning, but early on, I would talk to many of these people, and I don't think I could look this up again, but at least one or two people um, said that like if uh, even if Kotaku were to change their ethics policies, um, they would still attack. They would still go on with the Operation Disrespectful Nod, because at this point, there's no peace. We are burning them down. You know.
Right. There certainly were people like that, and there might still be. I'm not
Mm.
sure. I don't really encounter people like that too often anymore. But that was a mindset that some people had, and I think it's not a good mindset to have, but I think it is understandable.
Yeah.
The way people felt betrayed and the way a lot of people felt like they were being treated like scum. And rather than trying to think about this rationally, some people kind of blew up and maybe took it a little bit too far.
Well, yeah, I mean, like these people, like a bunch of these people were attacking their identity. And I've been playing video games basically since I could hold a controller. So it's like I kind of get it, but at the same time, we were calling they were calling for the the firing and metaphorical lynching uh, of people who did the moral equivalent of stealing a grape from the produce section at a grocery store. The whole sex for favors thing that internet aristocrat did at the beginning of his videos, sex for favors.
Well, that was very tongue in cheek though. The entire intro segment was InfoWars and all, it was
it was meant to be funny, but but also people were just saying it ironically or unironically that Nathan Grayson had sex for video game coverage, and the video game coverage was this one article where she was mentioned and quoted.
Well, there were 3 articles.
Oh, there were 3.
So the first one, so I did a video on it, a while back. Nathan Grayson did nothing wrong. No, myth debunked. Nathan Grayson did nothing wrong. And so the first article was, I think, 2013, and they had tweeted at each other, Nathan Grayson and Zoe Quinn. They tweeted at each other a few times, but nothing really unethical. Nothing that would really indicate more than, maybe Twitter followers at best, right?
Yeah.
Then the second article was for Rock Paper Shotgun, and he promoted her game above 49 other games. His game was, I can bring it up if you'd like.
That's the one where it's new Steam games this week or whatever, and it just has, and it, the picture for the article shows her text game in the most boring screenshot ever to look at.
Yes, and the article's title itself, do you mind if I screen share it real quick?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to pull this up. Give me 1 second. Okay. Admission Quest. Go away. Okay, Admission Quest. Valve greenlights 50 more games. As you can see, Admission Quest is a play on Depression Quest. He also
look at that screenshot. Can you imagine anything putting up anything more boring than that? Just a bunch of text. And this seems like it would grab attention.
And so he uses the screenshot. The name of the article is a play on the words. The name Depression Quest, and then he says here he lists Depression Quest first. Anyway, standouts: Powerful Twine Darling Depression Quest. He singles this game out above at least 47 others, arguably 49 others. And so I think people could look at this and be like, okay, well, this article is promoting that game.
Well,
nothing inherently.
Check the other 49 games there to make sure that they weren't just asset flips, because Valve Greenlight. This is Valve Greenlight we're talking about here. It's the same, the same system that gave us Digital Homicide or games from them and stuff like that. And maybe Depression Quest was the best game in there.
It may very well be, and that's perfectly fine. That could be his opinion. He could think Depression Quest is the best game in the world, and that's his opinion. He's more than entitled to that opinion. But if you look at when that article was published, and that article was published on, I can pull it up here again. It's January 8th.
Could I pause that thought just for a second? Somebody asked a very important question in chat.
Sure.
Are traps gay? And I want to settle this right now. Traps as a concept are bisexual. They aren't gay, they aren't straight, they're bisexual. And I don't know why nobody gets that.
Answering the tough questions.
Yeah,
but as you can see here, the article was published on January 8th, 2014.
Mhm.
And then a day later, on January 9th, 2014, he says, I hope not. If it is, I will burn down the games industry. And that's in response to Zoe Quinn talking about possibly quitting the games industry. So I think it's safe to say that at the very least, that Nathan Grayson and Zoe Quinn had a close relationship.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not like they became best friends all of a sudden one day after the article was published, right? There's a build up to this.
Yeah. No, I understand.
And I'm not saying that that's necessarily, you know, a quid pro quo that she had sex with him in order to promote her game. It's certainly possible, but that's speculation. But at the very least, it shows that Nathan Grayson had a personal relationship, a seemingly close friendship with, possibly a romantic relationship, but again, that's speculation given the time frame, with Zoe Quinn, and he was promoting her work. That is something that merits disclosure.
Yeah, and the idea that that Nathan did nothing wrong is, I think, it's going a little too far in defending Nathan Grayson. He the thing about video game journalism is that, like, up until like the 2000s, video games weren't seen as anything to be they weren't seen seriously. And so the state of video game journalism back then, it was like, you know, whatever, loosey goosey, do whatever you want. So video games kind of grew up as they became more complicated, as we got to a point where we could make more artistically valid games, and the like games themselves just started to grow bigger and better and all this stuff. But video game journalism didn't really grow up with them, if that makes sense.
So you don't believe that? I mean, well, what exactly is the role of a gaming journalist in your eyes? Is it reviews? Is it to provide news coverage? How exactly do you view the role of a gaming journalist?
The role of a gaming journalist, I'll be honest, I don't know. I'm not sure that's the right question to ask here. I mean, I do have opinions on, like, reviews. Can they be objective? Things like that. But basically, whatever the audience wants. But the point I'm trying to make here is that like, if you try to like suggest that, like back in the day when we were, like, they were writing NES game reviews and Nintendo Power, there was like, if you try to suggest that, you know, somebody is, you know, having a biased review for a video game back then, like, people would look at you like you're crazy. You know, there was no such thing as you know, conflict of interest there. And that's what I mean when I say that that video game journalism didn't grow up this, like, with video games. You know, like, they got bigger, but they didn't incorporate more serious journalism ethics, like, you know, making sure you pay attention to your conflicts of interest. You know, like, if you had a friend who was who had a video game and you were writing for Nintendo Power, and like whatever. No one cared, right?
Right, I think that's fair to say. And also, there was a lot of, Nintendo Power. Um, I believe they were owned by Nintendo themselves, so there's already a bias right there in and
Well,
of
yeah,
itself.
exactly.
So of course, there were always issues with it, um, and that's I think part of the reason why a lot of people wanted these gaming journalism sites to be more serious, to be more
Yeah,
ethical.
yeah, and I agree with that. I agree with them, with the push for them to, you know, get better journalism ethics standards, like making sure you're not writing for somebody who's not, um, who's not paying you or whatever. But I think the reaction to Nathan Grayson was a little bit too much. Like it was being framed as this huge conspiracy, uh, and like Nathan Grayson should lose his job for for a few articles where like basically nobody read some of them. Like in my mind, um, a conflict of interest uh, should, like, if you're writing a review and you have a financial stake in the in whether or not the thing you're reviewing is um sells well. If you're writing for something that you have a financial stake in, that's a lot different than writing a review for like a product where your uncle's mom or something works for them, and that's just the conflict of interest. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it depends on the type of relationship. If it's just acquaintances, then that's understandable, right? Because a games journalist is probably going to have a lot of acquaintances in the gaming industry. Where it becomes more questionable is if it's a friendship, if they're going out for drinks after work every day, or if they're hanging out a lot, and if they're either close friends or if they have a sexual relationship or something of that nature, then it becomes a lot more questionable than simply having an acquaintance who you talk to on Twitter, twice in your whole life.
Yeah, well, I mean, being a journalist requires you to have a lot of relationships within within the industry that you're covering. You have to maintain these relationships, but you also, excuse me, you also need to make sure that you're um like to avoid these criticisms, you have to make sure not to get too chummy, right?
Right, and you should try to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest as much as you do an
Exactly.
actual conflict of interest. But what do you take of, I believe it was Michael Koretsky, and I'm going to misquote him here because I don't remember the exact quote, but Michael Koretsky more or less expressed the view, if I'm not mistaken, that as a journalist, you can have professional acquaintances and professional relationships with people, but you
Mm,
should never, ever take that to a personal level. Not if you're covering
yeah,
their industry or their field.
sure. And like I'm not saying that what Nathan Grayson didn't wasn't wrong. I'm saying that he made a mistake in a culture of video game journalism that didn't what's the words I'm looking for? They didn't care about conflicts of interest. Nobody
Right.
cared that you were going to this press event and you were getting a whole bunch of swag from like BioWare or whatever.
So do you mind if I offer what I believe to be the probably most accurate representation of what happened? So I think
Go
that
ahead.
you had the Zoe post come out. The Zoe post itself did not accuse Nathan Grayson of anything.
Mhm.
It did not say that he wrote an article or anything like that. It
No,
just
no,
said
yeah, yeah.
Nathan
It
Grayson
was
and
all
Zoe
about it was
his
all about
relationship.
the five guys and Zoe,
Hmm.
you know,
So
cheating on him
the way I
and
see
all
it,
that stuff.
so you had that come up, the blog post, and then you had a bunch of people kind of talking about it. It was kind of drama, not a big deal. Nobody really cared. It was a fairly small number of people talking about it. And a couple people who were very hardcore gamers found out that, hey, wait a second, Nathan Grayson, doesn't he write for Rock Paper Shotgun and Kotaku? And they
Mhm.
found the article and they saw some of the tweets that he sent out, like the burn down the games industry tweet. And they thought that that was kind of a big deal. So you had a lot of people talking about the drama, and then you had a smaller number of people who cared about the ethics.
Mhm.
And then you had the Patricia Hernandez controversy come up, where Patricia Hernandez
Oh
was
yeah.
writing about her roommate
Yep.
and their games. And so people are like, well, wait a second, this is Kotaku. Two of their writers now are engaged in this controversy. So you had a lot more people
Yep.
caring about ethics than jumping in, who didn't really care about the drama so much, but cared about the ethics. And then you had the Gamers Are Dead articles come out, and that
Mhm.
just blew the whole thing out of proportion, and everybody started talking about that. And
Yeah.
so what started is just sort of a little bit of drama, and then started a little bit of drama. Then
Mhm.
people found ethical violations, or what they perceived to be ethical violations, and then you had these articles come out, and then that's when Gamergate blew up into what it is today.
Yeah. Well, there. Uh, let me just say, like, first of all, Aaron Gyonji. How do you pronounce that?
I have no idea.
Aaron Gyoni, whatever. Um, he didn't just put up a Zoe post. He tried to share it on, I think, Penny Arcade. Like he tried to push it to a couple of forums before uh people on 4chan got a hold of it. But and like as much as I feel for him being cheated on by Zoe Quinn, I don't know if that the behavior of him just trying to get a mob after her
Well,
is any
I'm
better.
not sure what his intentions were, but I personally I would agree with you that I don't think he should have published it. It's airing your dirty laundry out to the world. Um, it's these aren't really
Oh.
public figures. Zoe Quinn was an extremely minor person. Aaron Joni was an extremely minor person. Nathan Grayson, I guess, wasn't so minor. He was a bit of a public figure, but
I
for the
wouldn't
most part,
mind.
he was.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
For the most part, I mean, these were relatively minor people,
Yeah.
and it's someone's personal relationship drama, not really a big deal. I don't think he should have published it.
I would be okay with him publishing it like in a blog because like if you're fucked with like that, you kind of need a place to vent, you know? Um the part that gets me is that he shouldn't have tried to, like get a mob after her or whatever. He shouldn't have tried to make this about like um vilifying her on the internet.
Right. I mean, I never read the Zoe post to be honest,
Yeah,
so I can't
I haven't.
comment on the specifics too much.
Yeah,
But
I'm in that camp too. I didn't like. I read a little bit. I tried to skim through it, but it was like I don't care about any of this.
right, I mean, it just seems boring to me, and I don't really see it as relevant to GamerGate to be honest. So I never
Yeah,
really even looked into it. I don't care
yeah,
about Aaron Joni and Zoe Quinn's personal drama.
yeah. And a lot like GamerGate tried to like for the longest time they tried to excise like discussion of Zoe Quinn and Anita Sarkeesian and like every time somebody like every time one of them would like do something, someone would come on to like the GG place and like, oh, look at what she's doing, and like they couldn't leave it alone, and you had like people coming in of like, stop it, this is not about literally who, you know. It was just like it was funny to me that like they it was like they were being trolled, you know, like they couldn't stop.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. They couldn't stop responding to the bait.
Well, I mean, the way I disagree with the people who think that you shouldn't talk about Zoe Quinn or Nina Sarkeesian, and I don't think people should harass them, obviously, but I don't think people should be afraid to talk about that or should try to refrain from talking about them, because I mean, you have these two people who, so Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn, they're both fairly political actors. Yep. They do express a lot of political views in relation to video games. I don't think that's very controversial to say. And you know, personally,
Anita, yes, I don't know about Zoe.
She talks about or she used to anyway. A lot of the controversies in the gaming industry, she'd pop in and chime in with a usually feminist perspective on it.
Well, a lot of people would pop in and chime in, but like,
yeah, but she's got a like pretty big platform at this point, and she's expressing views that we disagree with, and I don't think there's anything wrong with criticizing their opinions. That's perfectly fine, and disagreeing with them is perfectly fine. That doesn't make you a harasser or a sexist. And really, I think that when these people go on TV, when Anita Sarkeesian goes on the Colbert Report, and she talks about how, you know, GamerGate is a group of hate-filled trolls, and that, you know, that they don't really care about ethics, they're only pretending to, and all this stuff. I think that we should call them out on that and hold them accountable and hold the press accountable for what they're saying.
Yeah, and I think you should feel free to call them out on it, but like looking from the outside, like a lot of people I talk to like want to say, oh, the people who are harassing her aren't connected to Gamergate. They're just trolls trying to false flag or whatever. But like Gamergate would cover somebody, like they would post up something where it's like, oh, this person did this, and then all of a sudden a mob would come after them, and oh goodness.
You have the same ringtone as me.
Do I? Really? Yeah. Awesome.
I almost thought that was my phone for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't play Metal Gear Solid anymore because every time I get a call, I think I reach for my phone instinctively. What were we talking about? Oh yeah. Gamergate would people in Gamergate, sorry. I have to swap controller to slot 2. Yes, thank you. It's a good idea. But you still there, Netscape?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, okay. I definitely in silence. I thought I lost you. But like Gamergate would post something like, look at what this feminist is doing, what she's talking about Gamergate and something, and all of a sudden like that person would get a mob after them, and somebody looking from the outside is like, there's no it's obvious these two things are related. They keep happening at the same time.
What we're talking about here, you're talking about they get a mob after them on, you're talking about people on Twitter responding to them, and usually, from what I've seen, being respectful and polite. You might have a couple people say a few insults, but for the most part, anytime these journalists or feminist activists talk about Gamergate, the response is usually polite. And yes, there are oftentimes dozens of replies. And I could see how that might be overwhelming for someone, especially if they have a very low Twitter following. But if they don't have a lot of Twitter followers, they might find that a little bit overwhelming. But if people aren't, doxing them or telling them to kill themselves or, things of that nature, and they're just being polite and expressing a different viewpoint,
Yeah,
then
and
I don't think you can call that harassment.
I think you can harass somebody while being polite. Like if it's clear that they don't want to talk about something. It's fucking, my phone is just ringing off the hook here. Like if they don't want to talk to you and you just keep trying to insert yourself into their conversation, like they say, hey, I don't want to talk to you anymore, please leave me alone, and like you like you're talking to somebody else and they come in and try and get into that thread, like that's very clearly harassment.
Obviously you have the option to block or mute that person, but
Yeah.
how often does somebody, after being asked not to reply to them anymore, actually keep on or messaging them and finding them in other Twitter threads and stuff and do that? I don't see that happening too often.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
So, I mean, how often does it actually happen where somebody says, oh, please stop tweeting at me, and they just keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it? I mean, I don't see that too often.
I did. I can't again, I can't name specifics, but this is my lived experience, and you can be you can say, oh, that's bullshit if you want.
Better get helicopter guy in here.
Yeah, get helicopter guy, where are you? But I've seen it several times. Like if they keep responding to them, like the person who's being harassed is like, please stop, please leave me alone, and then they'll tweet something else at them in a different thread, and they're like, okay, please stop. Like if they keep responding them, telling them to stop, I think that's definitely harassment. And
I think that's being a dick. I don't think I'd call it harassment, but
well, like you've said before, that it's a public forum, right? Everyone can see what you're saying. Everyone should have the right to reply to you, right? But like, imagine you're in a park, on a park bench with a friend talking. Somebody overhears your conversation. You're in a public place, and they come over and they start talking to you, and they're very polite. They're like, oh, hey, I would like to have a civil disagreement with you about this topic. And the person says, no, go away, I don't want you talking to me. And if that person keeps trying to talk to them, that is actual harassment.
I would agree in a real world context, but can you really compare the internet though, or whether it's Twitter or Reddit or something along those lines to that? I mean, all you have to do is block the person or mute them, and that's the end of it. And if they create another account and then they start harassing you or not harassing necessarily, but tweeting at you again and again and again with that account, you can call that harassment if you want, or you could not. But I'd say that once you create a second account after someone's blocked you, that's when it jumps into harassment territory. That's the way I see it anyway.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't know. I technically, you could, just to avoid it altogether, talk in DMs with your friends if you don't want to be bothered. But it's kind of, I don't know.
Well, if I think that if they try to circumvent the block, that's when it becomes harassment. That's the way I see it anyway. And you can disagree with me, of course, that's fine. But I think that, if they haven't blocked you and you're not telling them to kill themselves or sending them a death threat or, really obscene messages,
Mm,
then I wouldn't really call that harassment. It's maybe being an asshole. If I may
yeah.
be frank, that's being an asshole. But I don't think I would say it's harassment unless they try to circumvent the block, or they send those obscene messages or death threats or whatever.
Yeah, that's definitely harassment. I can agree with that. But like I think if someone tells you to stop talking to them, stop adding them, I think like to a lesser degree, at the very least, that is harassment.
And by that definition, I'd be guilty of harassment. One time I did that early on in GamerGate because I was on my phone and I didn't see their notifications. I was just tweeting like a 6 or 7 tweet chain on my
Yeah.
phone, and I didn't see their message telling me to stop.
Well, then you're a terrible person,
I know.
and I hate you. And you're gonna, I'm gonna send my GamerGazi uh, henchman after you.
Are you a poster there, by the way?
I used to be. I used to be. I got it got a little weird there. Like people were getting really reactionary. I mean, like there was always some kind of reactionary element to it, but like Gamergate was kind of losing popular uh, visibility, and people were like posting like just really really minor things about Gamergate, and like stuff that doesn't even have anything to do with Gamergate. And I'm just like, let's see you guys later. Matt, like I was actually surprised how much people hated GamerGazi, because I think like one like the biggest complaint people had about GamerGazi is that they don't allow dissent. Like people were upset that like they couldn't go on there and counter the points with like their own arguments.
Well, it would seem to me anyway that the lack of allowing so sorry, I am not
It's
speaking
okay.
articulately. So I would say that it would seem that Gamergazi's decision to not allow dissent has not been working out well for them. Did you see their white fragility sticky by one of the moderators?
I haven't. Is that the thing you linked?
I tweeted it earlier. I just linked it just now.
Oh, okay.
It's basically this is I think why a lot of people this is what Gamergazi has become as a result
Yeah.
of them not allowing any sort of dissent and banning anyone with an even conservative or Gamergate or anti-SJW or whatever it happens to be perspective. All white people are racist. Far from absolving them, this places an urgent burden on all of you, and
Mhm.
this whole thing is just insane. It's pretty long. I'm not gonna read the whole thing. And there's also
Yeah,
somebody
like
is upvoted. He
greed.
says, as a Christian, I never had trouble with the concept of white guilt. Just like original sin, it is guilt that we have to accept to drive us to be better people. And
Um,
that's got 8 upvotes, which is a
yeah,
pretty large number of upvotes on Gamergazi today, at
like
least.
I understand the concept. I understand like the point they're trying to get across, but it is like the optics are so bad, and that's been a big problem with progressives lately. Like the just like they don't know how to they don't know how to make these arguments without attacking people's identity, you know? Because like it doesn't matter if we all willingly or not participate in a racist system. If you're gonna call somebody racist, and they believe that they're not racist or that they shouldn't be labeled as racist, you're going to get pushback from that. They're not going to see the larger point that you're making, you know?
Right, their optics are probably the worst I've ever seen, to be
Yeah,
honest. And
it's awful. And I
I
wish
mean,
that
it resulted in
would do
Trump
it.
winning, pretty much.
Yeah.
I would disagree with the idea that we live in a racist system, though, as you
Mhm.
probably heard in the helicopter guy stream.
Remind me. I was pretty tired for a lot of that.
Oh,
Was, like you could see in chat, I was getting really loopy and making really stupid comments and stuff like that.
you mean you don't do that normally? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure you want to get into that though. I mean, it is a bit unrelated, and there's
Well,
plenty
it's
of stuff you want
yeah,
to talk
but
about.
also it's not my area of. It's not something that I can really speak to a lot.
Do you mind if I address something from the chat real quick?
Oh yeah, go ahead. I've been trying to pay attention to both the things you're linking and the chat, and so I'm missing everything.
Char42 says harassment can also come from a cumulative effect of well-meaning people. Sea lining, sorry. You can absolve responsibility on any one participant, but that provides no comfort for their target.
That's very
So
true.
I can see why, if a bunch of people message you, that might be disconcerting, and it might be overwhelming, especially if you had notifications on your phone, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, anytime you make a controversial statement about politics or about
Mhm.
social issues, you're putting yourself out there to be criticized, to have your ideas
Yeah.
challenged. And
But I think a
so
lot of sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, if you're going to, go on Twitter or go on YouTube or Reddit, and you're going to make comments, and a lot of people disagree with you, I don't think that you can say that that's harassment. It might be uncomfortable at first because you're like, oh wow, I got all these messages and they all disagree with me and they say my opinion sucks. That might
Mhm.
be uncomfortable for you as a person to experience, but you put yourself out there with a political view or with a social view, and you put that out in the open where people can criticize it. So you should expect that some people might disagree.
Yeah, and like I don't it's a really complicated thing. Like there's no clear cut answer that I can see. Like because like a lot of it is just like outrage culture. Like uh you can respond to somebody's tweet, and for you that would be it. Like you go on with your day, but like that tweet is part of like an avalanche that is just absolutely overwhelming this person you know
Right, and I definitely understand that. And I've been on Twitter for a while. I've had that happen to me before.
Mhm.
YouTube videos. I've released some videos that have been very, very heavily criticized by people both within my community and outside of it.
Do you know which one?
There were a couple.
Oh, okay.
Let's
I was just
see.
wondering if you knew it offhand, so I wanted to watch it later.
Well, I did a video on the it was a drama video,
Mhm.
which I guess is really stupid to comment on, but I thought it was worth doing. It was on Kraut and Tea and the UK Independence Party and this one YouTuber who made some borderline racist comments.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the Kraut and Tea Rage After Storm and UKIP drama video. Also, one of my videos about the CoxCon controversy, where Total Biscuit he kicked somebody out of a panel because they asked if traps were
Coxcomb.
gay.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That video was pretty poorly received as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I am transgender myself. Is like you could probably tell because my voice is weird, but
Well, I have no problem with trans people, so don't doesn't
I
bother me
understand.
one bit.
Yeah. I understand. Thank you, by the way. But I forgot what I was gonna say.
You were talking about being trans and the CoxCon controversy with Total Biscuit.
Oh yeah. Like I understand where he's coming from because the term trap comes from kind of a very um dark place because like one of the big anxieties that comes with being transgender is that, like, you're dating somebody and you feel like you're getting to that point where you can reveal to them that you are transgender, and like the anxiety is that they will turn violent, possibly kill you, because that's the thing that's happened before. uh but like the idea of a trap, that this person deceived me, and I'm I was lured by this man in a dress into this trap. Like, a lot of people were trying to say, oh, well, trap's not something that that has bad connotations. It's like, really, you don't
Well,
see it.
yeah, I can see. I definitely understand where you're coming from there. I always took trap as being from the anime community,
Yeah,
with Hunter x Hunter and Steins Gate, how they've got characters who they appear one gender, or their voice is feminine or masculine, and then you find out like halfway through the series that they're actually not
that
that
they
gender.
yeah. And like, I'm not saying that there aren't some people, like there aren't a like even a sizable group of people who see the term trap as something either neutral or positive. I'm just saying that that's the root of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and obviously, that's an understandable concern for someone who's trans to,
Yeah,
if you reveal this to somebody, how are they going to react?
exactly.
Well, you mentioned wanting to discuss transphobia and GamerGate.
Oh, yeah, I did put that in there. Um, like, I guess like my thinking in that regard was like, I like, obviously that, like, the opinion was split, because like I would browse, GamerGate forums and KIA, and I'd come across somebody who was being transphobic, and like, I like, to the credit of GamerGate, there was just about always somebody there who was like, hey, that's not cool. you know that's the you're at the very least, they were like, that's bad optics, man. Stop saying that kind of crap. You're gonna make us look bad. But like, it would pop up, especially in like Brianna Wu conversations. Like, people would call her it, and things like that. But like, I don't know. I like, it seemed like the part of Gamergate that was kind of embedded in this Chan culture was far more transphobic. And like, they would, like, if you agreed with Gamergate, they'd be like, yeah, okay, fine, well, we'll use your preferred form pronouns, just across the board. But if if you're somebody that we don't respect, if you're somebody who's who who's against Gamergate, and you've said some stupid things online, then I don't respect you, and therefore I'm not gonna respect your gender pronouns. And like, and it's weird because, like, when the same types of people, when they're talking about somebody, like even the manliest looking uh cisgender woman, they won't call her it. They won't say it, or you know call her a man or anything like that. That's strictly reserved for trans people. you know
Right, and there always have been some people in GamerGate who were, uh, I guess you can say, transphobic. I know there's a lot of controversy about that word, uh, but I think there, as you said, there were a lot of people who also weren't. I think probably the majority didn't really care one way or the other. They didn't really give a shit. And
Okay.
the polls, I'll go ahead and show a couple
Oh,
polls on the topic,
okay.
if you don't mind.
Oh no, that's fine.
So this is one that I conducted across several GamerGate platforms. I can link you to the full study if you'd like. This is one of the questions asked with 608 votes, and 72% said, "Do you support?" So the question was, "Do you support respecting the choices of trans people?" And 72% said yes. 15% said no. 13% were undecided. That, as far as I know, that's the only poll conducted on the topic. Brad
What
Glasgow
does
did
that
not mention.
mean to support support respecting the choices of trans
I
people?
I don't even know, to be honest. I
Like
didn't
if
really I didn't
it,
really understand the whole trans thing at the time. So
I support the trans people's right to choose which ice cream.
all right, but our society is very deeply divided on the topic of transgender people, and I don't mean to be offensive to you, but
Oh
a
no,
lot of
it's fine.
people, probably about half the country, and you feel one way about this, and half the country feel another way about this.
Yeah,
The polls might be 60-40 or 70-30 or whatever it happens to be, but suffice to say, there is a huge portion of people um, who hold very different opinions on this.
yeah, yeah,
And so I think that anytime you're going to have a movement that is consisting of people from just everyday society for the most part, the gaming community isn't all that different from your average person, at least not today. You're going to have a
yeah,
wide variety of opinions, and some of those people are going to think that transgenderism is a mental illness. Some people are going to think that it's morally wrong to dress up as a person from the other gender and claim that you are that. Not that you're necessarily doing that, but some people might think that's wrong. They're going to have
yeah,
a wide variety of opinions on it. It's a fairly mainstream political topic today. So,
yeah, yeah. Um, Jplay asked a question on here. Mist, are you implying that they are denying some people's humanity? I'm not entirely sure what that means. I was hoping you could elaborate. I guess that we just kind of wait for them. Think deeply divided about the general thing of trans is too broad.
right, like you ask, it depends on what question you asked. Like if you asked, do you think that somebody could transition to the other gender? They might say yes or no. Do you think that transgenderism is an actual diagnosis? So are gender dysphoria is an actual diagnosis or not? Some people might say yes or no. If you ask them, should trans men be allowed in women's restrooms and trans women allowed into men's restrooms and vice versa and things like that, then you're going to get a much wider divide, I imagine,
Mm-hmm.
on something like that.
Um, when people called Brianna Wu it, okay, so I think the question is, by calling Brianna Wu it, do I think um that they are denying her humanity? And yeah, I think I think calling anybody it is kind of denying their humanity. They're like you're basically referring to them as not a person, but like with a gender, but like an inanimate object.
Right, that's probably fair to say. I think a lot of people hold the opinion that you know these people who are trans are just crazy, uh, and I would say that transgenderism is a mental disorder, but that's not. There's no negative stigma attached to it when I say that. I just mean that it is a disorder that people need help with. Like I don't hate trans people. I don't hate schizophrenic people. I don't hate people with the eating disorders. I don't hate those people. They have an issue, and they should be treated with whatever the medical community and the scientific community recommends.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on what you mean by uh, transgenderism as a mental disorder. Because like a lot of people will say that, but mean like you know, a trans woman is delusional. They think they're a woman when they're not, and you know they need like psychotherapy drugs to make them stop wanting to be a woman, I guess, like as if that were something we could do. um Someone asked you a question, Netscape. You probably
Yes,
mean
you said gender
dysphoria more
dysphoria.
specifically.
I'm not really sure what the difference between gender dysphoria and transgenderism is. From my understanding, which again is fairly limited on this topic, gender dysphoria is what causes somebody to feel uncomfortable with their gender and want to transition to the other gender.
Would you mind if I kind of walk us through with that? Or
Go ahead.
actually, can we take a break for just a second? I need to go to the bathroom and
Yeah, go ahead.
probably make some more tea.
And if
Okay.
you have questions from the chat has questions, feel free to pose them now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead and post some questions if you want, chat. If I've missed a question or something like that, I'm gonna mute myself real quick if I can. Okay, here we are. All right, be back in a minute.
So we don't have any dead air. Do you guys want to propose any questions I can answer real quick? Jay says, I think gender dysphoria is a real condition because only about 0.25% of the population is reported on it. However, if it is over 1% or 5% depending, it's counted as a normal statistical value. Right, like I would say that the number of transgender people in society is probably very, very, very low, probably less than 1%. I know a lot of people on Tumblr claim they're trans, and some of them say things like transracial, and claim that they're animals with the otherkin thing. But I think that those people are probably just playing around for shits and giggles or want attention. But that's not to say that all trans people want attention. That's to say that the people who claim that they're animals, the people who claim that they have 15 headmates and stuff, that those people are just wanting attention. Not that I'd say it isn't valid. I still think it is absolutely valid if someone is trans. Yeah, it's valid that those people have that condition. Sure, absolutely. Well, I don't think it really matters if you really consider it normal or not, Char. The way I see it, as long as you're not hurting other people, I don't really care what you do. Like, I'm probably not normal in some respects. The average person in society doesn't know what GamerGate is. So, in that respect, I'm probably not normal. The average person probably doesn't really care about healthcare policy. Yet I love learning about healthcare policy. So in that respect, I'm probably abnormal. So in a lot of ways, I'm abnormal. Everybody is abnormal. I smoke cigarettes, something that what 20-30% of the population does. That's not a majority. A minority of people smoke cigarettes. So in that respect, I'm probably abnormal. Char says, I'm a programmer, right? And if I write an algorithm to reason over a certain data set, and some corner cases aren't recognized by the algorithm, then that's a problem in the algorithm. I'll rewrite the algorithm to be more generic to capture all the corner cases. Hey, Liviana, I'll send her a tweet with your video. All right, I guess I'll be right back too. Grab a drink of water. Back. All right. Are you there? Oh, I guess she's still AFK. Hey, Jackseed, how you doing? Yeah, she's AFK for a moment, so. So what are you guys all up to? This stream probably won't go on for too much longer. Maybe another 30 minutes or so. I do want to get back to recording my response to the economist. The economist, what am I saying?
All right, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Did you want to quickly dive into the trans topic?
Yes.
But
yes, we can
just a heads up, I don't want to go for too much longer, maybe another half hour to 45 minutes.
That's fine. I'm sure you've got other stuff to do. Okay, so just trying to organize my thoughts and see how I can explain this quickly. So I think like there are three separate issues here. The first one is gender identity. The second one is biological sex. And the third one is gender expression. Gender identity is basically the gender you see yourself as in your head, right? It's hard to explain, but basically, it's not something that's noticeable unless you are experiencing dysphoria, which is an extreme discomfort to your uh, about your um, about your gender, basically. Did I lose you?
Nope, I'm here.
Oh no, it's okay. I'm drinking just some herbal tea with lemon and honey. It's for my throat.
So, talking about the media's coverage of GamerGate,
Okay.
you're a bit more on the anti-GamerGate side. So, you would say, what would you say rather? Would you say that the articles are more in line with your views than with those of GamerGate people? Would you say that they're biased? And would you say that the media has largely tried to cover GamerGate fairly or not?
Are you talking about the gamers are dead articles?
Oh no, just the various hundreds of articles that have come out about GamerGate on various sites, from Huffington Post to The Guardian to most recently NBC News' segment and
Mm.
the Economist segment, and Pacific Standard just did an article too about
You'll get
GamerGate.
you'll get it right someday. um, sorry, I heard you trying to say economist before, but uh, I haven't read every single uh Gamergate coverage. Um, but I like in general, I don't think they cover the the non-harassment side. Like they don't do a good job of covering like people like you who kind of make up the PR face of Gamergate, you know?
uh, I'm sure a lot of the anti-GamerGate people think of people like me as the PR face,
Yeah,
but
maybe.
but so would you say that by only covering the harassment and not covering the ethics, not covering the censorship, or by making sweeping claims such as Gamergate supports harassment, rather than saying perhaps some have accused Gamergate of, or some people in Gamergate have, but by making a sweeping generalization such as that, do
Yeah,
you think that they
they're not
are being
complete
unethical?
they're not showing the full story. They're not they're like the biggest problem with covering Gamergate is that when Gamergate started, it was uh like it was on purpose meant to be decentralized so that everyone like you could get a plausible deniability for everything. Like it was like no leaders, no uh e-celebs, at least for from some people. um so like trying to talk about Gamergate, unless you're kind of drawing lines of like, okay, this part of Gamergate, uh, and this part of Gamergate, and this part of Gamergate, you're gonna be wrong, essentially, no matter what you say about Gamergate. So
I,
like somebody can point to somebody who has like a Gamergate avatar, and be like, hey, that person is not like that.
well, but I think when you're talking about a large sort of decentralized group like this, or like Occupy Wall Street, or like Black Lives Matter, or the Anonymous movement about a decade ago, when you're
Mhm.
talking about a very large decentralized group like that, I think you have to look at what the majority of people seem to be saying. You can't look at like, oh, this one guy on Twitter with 5 followers said this. You have to
Yeah.
look at what most people seem to be saying. What are the articles that the Gamergate people like? What are the articles that they
Mhm.
think are fair or represent their point of view? What is getting retweeted the most? What is getting upvoted the most?
Yeah.
Things of that nature. So, like for instance, David Auerbach's piece, he wrote a fairly neutral piece on Gamergate. So did Eric Kane. So
Mhm.
did what's her name, Liana Kersner. So did David Pacman with his interviews. So it's not hard to see, what are the articles that Gamergate people think are fair. And then if you're looking into this for the first time as a journalist, You can be like,
Yeah.
okay, these articles got really heavily promoted in the GamerGate community, and they said that these articles were good for the most part. So maybe these articles reflect their point of view.
Mm. Um, excuse me.
Or
I
what
think,
videos are really popular and things like that.
yeah. I think they like that. Uh, Apart from like they didn't go by what GamerGate was saying. They went about what they saw were the effects of Gamergate. Like Bayonetta, like Polygon gave Bayonetta a low score, because because um of over sexualization, and for a while that was a big Gamergate issue, despite there being no real ethic violations there.
Well, yeah, it's because a lot of people in GamerGate, it's sort of a two-pronged thing. GamerGate,
Mhm.
um, there's two aspects of it, really. I'd say two main aspects anyway, and that is the ethics and games journalism aspect of it. But
Yeah.
there's also the opposition to supposed gatekeeping in the industry, such as attempts to stifle creative freedom or attempts to punish game developers or give them lower scores and things of that nature, because
Right.
they're too sexy or because of things of that nature. So there's sort of two aspects of it, and there are some people who only care about the ethics, and there are some people who only care about the social justice warrior stuff. But there's also a lot of overlap where most people, I think, seem to care about both topics, not just one or the other.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
they're going to talk about ethics, and they're also going to talk about the social justice stuff in gaming too.
Yeah, and I've actually never heard it described as like gatekeeping before. It's always just been like SJWs are taking over gaming, and we shouldn't have reviews that dock points for it being uh you know sexy or anything like that. And first of all, that's a problem with like the way games are made itself, that publishers put so much stock in like the the Metacritic review scores and things like that like somebody giving a game a low score because it has sexy imagery that's objectifying. It actually matters to people, and it affects what gets made. You know.
Well, yes, and that is sort of a separate issue. I don't blame the games journalists for the heavy emphasis on Metacritic scores and things like that. It's not their fault that the industry is tying bonuses and things of that nature to it.
Mm.
That's not on the games journalists themselves. Personally, I think that they have a right to review games from a feminist perspective. I think that most people in GamerGate share that view. We just think that they're going about it the wrong way. For instance, there are plenty of other sites that review games from a different perspective. Whether it's a Christian perspective or a Jewish
Yeah,
perspective or things of that nature.
Christian website,
Yeah,
that like
Christ-centered game, but they
Christ-centered gamer. Everybody likes it because it all ties into this idea of objective reviews. Like they think, like they see Christ-centered gamer, and they're like, hey, this person can set apart you know his subjective opinions with objective opinions.
well, it's
And
not that. That's not what objective reviews is. It's not not having an opinion, right? Because you have an opinion when you review a game, of course, but it's separating your politics from from the gameplay, from the story, from the art style, from the visuals. And so what they do at Christ Center Gamer is they write, basically it's two reviews. They
Mhm.
break it into two parts. They've got here's the gameplay, here's how smooth it ran, the story. Here were some good things about the story, some bad things about the story. Hopefully, without spoiling the story in the process. And they criticized those aspects of it. The graphics were a bit low quality. They didn't have native 60 FPS. They things of that nature, things that are really criticizing the game itself, criticizing the story of the game, and then they have a separate section which is how does this fall in line with our political views? How does this fall in line with our religious or political views? And then they say, well, this aspect of the game from a Christian perspective, is problematic, and here's why it's problematic from a Christian perspective.
Yeah.
And then the consumer can decide from there, well, how much does this game go against my Christian values? And they can decide, well, this game doesn't really go that much against it, so maybe I'll pick it up. Or this game goes way too far against my Christian values, so I won't pick it up.
Right, but the second review, the non-Christian review that he does isn't apolitical. Like politics is all like just about everything is politics or political, at least not in the sense of it having to relate to like the government or anything like that, but it's just about all political. Like unless you're only doing like the barest technical review, even if you're commenting about it not being 60 frames per second, that like if you think that's a bad thing or a good thing, that's a political view. Like there's
I see, but if you make everything political, then nothing is political. Like 60 frames per second is not a political issue.
no. Like I'm not saying that not everything is political. Like you can list that the game runs at 720p and just not make a judgment. If you make a judgment about that, like, oh man, I don't like that it is only in 720p. I would rather it be in 1080p so I can play it on my big screen TV or whatever. That's politics. That's a very light form of politics.
I don't think that opinions are politics. Like if I say I like French fries, that's not a political statement, not even a lightly covered political statement. It's do I like French fries or not? It's an opinion.
Well, it's a very low degree of political opinion.
Now, if I I'm not saying French fries should be banned. I'm not saying that French fries should, that the government should, or that public schools should be forced to serve French fries with every single meal or anything like that. I'm just saying I like French fries.
Yeah. And you're a Nazi for liking French fries. Of course. Duh.
But, how is that political though? How would you say that liking French fries or liking 60 frames per second or 720p is political?
Well, I mean, like, consider freedom fries. If you're calling them freedom fries because you hate the French. No, I'm kidding. Like, I'm pretty like I think the fact that we view like whether or not there is a female protagonist or whether there's objectification in the game as like at the very least, even if you don't agree that it is all political, or at least most every opinion is political. Like there's no hard line saying that like this is political, but this is not. Like if you don't I'm trying to think of an example, but like something where like this makes me like not enjoy the experience I'm having with this game.
Well,
I'm probably getting really ranty, but
of politics. And where's this from? Well, I just Googled it. Define politics. It says the activities associated with the governance of a country or other area, especially the debate or conflict among individuals or parties having or hoping to achieve power. And I think that that's a pretty fair definition of politics. And that's
Mm.
you know that's the way I think most people, probably 95% of the population, views politics. It's what goes on with our elected officials, what policies are the best policies or the worst policies, what is a good healthcare policy, what is good immigration policy, what is good this and that. It's not, people's opinions on various completely unrelated topics like video games or French fries or anything
Well,
of
when
that nature.
has like when has uh female objectification been a common topic in like in politics, in congressional debates or legislature or things like that?
Well, that's a social topic or a social issue. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a political issue.
Yeah, but I like. Well,
But
then what are
that's
we talking about?
nobody's like nobody's talking
Like
about the
this whole tangent
government.
started with the Bayonetta review being docked points for female objectification, and I was assuming that when you said that people were against politics in video games reviews, that covered the Bayonetta review.
Well, feminism is a political and social ideology, and objectification comes from feminism, though usually more of the social side. Like I don't see very many feminists advocating for laws banning objectifying video games.
Yeah, but you see where I'm saying that there is no hard and fast line. Your definition was very strictly about governance, what the kind of stuff that people talk about in governance, but we don't talk about there's not really a big political conversation around specifically female objectivity or
I don't think I would even consider supposed objectification to be a political real issue. To me, it's not, just because you like playing Dead or Alive or Cinnamon Kagura, that doesn't make you a bad person, or it doesn't make you a conservative or a liberal. It doesn't mean that you're going to change your political views, or that you're going to view women in a negative light, or that you're going to act towards women in an untoward manner. It just means that you like this type of video game, and that's okay. It doesn't reflect you as a person.
So if I'm not mistaken, did you just agree with me that the Bayonetta review wasn't political, like in the sense that?
Well, I think he viewed it as political. The author probably did, but
well, unless you're reading minds, I don't know.
Perhaps political is the right word. It's a it's a feminist perspective, just like Christ-centered gamer isn't reviewing games from a political perspective.
Yeah.
They're reviewing games from a Christian perspective.
Yeah, and I not shooting endangered birds is a conservationist, issue, but
well, that also does deal with politics a bit too, because people often want laws to protect endangered species.
Yeah, you could argue that that's way more political than even the female objectification, because we have conservation laws all the time, all the time. I'm talking nonsense. I don't know how to talk.
There are probably thousands of protected species, so
yeah, they have laws against shooting whatever type of bird, or some nonsense law about not building on this property because there's an endangered bird here or something. Objectification isn't necessarily bad. dehumanization is.
Even then,
Um,
if a video game
yeah,
dehumanized a character in a
yeah.
game, and that character was a woman or a man or whatever they happen to be,
Mm.
I don't really see how that's an issue. You know, you can play the game, and that doesn't mean that you're going to treat people in the real world like that, or that you're going to hold negative opinions about them just because the game is kind of being mean to that character or that particular gender within the game.
Well, from what I understand, and I'm not an expert on this, but like media is very bad at getting us to do things, but it's very good at reinforcing things that we already believe.
I don't think very many
Like it,
people believe that women are subhuman, though. And
well,
if
no, but
people
like
don't, go
it's
ahead.
not that women are subhuman. It's that it's that this woman is being portrayed in a way that is more about her being an object, despite being like one of the main characters, than it is about her being a person who just happens to be a woman.
Well, some people like those types of games. They like the fan servicey games and animes, and that's fine for both genders. I think. I don't think that that's a
Well,
political
yeah, I
statement
mean,
about women.
I've always said that like I've wanted a game forever where um where it's a bunch of uh slender young men in speedos. However, the speedos have separate pockets for their penis and each ball, and all three of those entities have their own physics engine, so that anytime they move an inch, it's like flubber. They all start bouncing around. That's the kind of game that I want.
And hey, yeah, I'm fine with that. I think most people in GamerGate would say, more power to you. You want to make a game
Yeah.
like that? You go ahead and sell it. Now, it might be commercially successful or it might not. The free market will decide, but you
Oh
should be free to
boy,
make
free
that.
market. Good old free market. We like I know you don't have you're like we're already probably past the time you wanted to
That's okay.
leave,
I
but
can go a little bit longer if you want.
no, it's okay. You don't have to stay on for me,
I'm
but like
enjoying it.
I'm having fun.
Yeah, I'm having fun
Um
too. I do want to get back to the Economist article that I'm going to be responding to. I'm like halfway through the
oh, yeah.
video, but
Yeah.
it's only 9 o'clock here, and I'll probably stay up till about 2, so no big deal.
Oh well, I mean if you're sure, but I don't want to keep you I don't want to keep you for too long.
Well, let's see some other topics that you wanted to discuss, and then we can go to questions from the chat, and then we can close it down. Okay?
Sure. I think a few of them are like I want a lot more time with a couple of them
Well,
because
which one in
like
particular?
uh it escapes me right now. I don't have it pulled up, but um hang on.
Economist. God, I need to get that right.
Economist. Yes.
It's Economist. There we go. Okay.
There
Yeah,
you go.
I'm actually a subscriber of theirs.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to get their perspective on various political issues, and a lot of people on the left and the right recommended it. Someone from the Ask Trump Supporters sub, which I am not a Trump supporter, by the way, but some of them were saying that it's where they get their news from because it's fair. And then a liberal recently recommended it to me too, and I'm like, okay, well, both sides are recommending it. I'm looking for more fairly neutral news. I'll try it
Yeah.
out. And
I like NPR. I don't know if you listen to NPR, but I don't trust I don't trust a lot of the news media lately. I just go like this is like NPR and like maybe a couple of others. Like it's not like I'll think any news article linked to me is lying about everything all the time, but like if I go to news, if news doesn't come to me and I go to it, I'm choosing NPR. Is better safe than sorry. But the game dev creative freedom is the one that I wanted a lot more time to discuss because there was a lot, I think, to unpack there.
Okay. Would you like to define creative freedom, or at least go ahead and do a jumping off point about where we might disagree or find common ground, possibly even?
Yeah. If I am understanding correctly, you think that game devs should be able to be free to create whatever kind of game they want without, you know, pressure from the fans to make it, you know, feminist friendly or whatever. Am I correct in saying that?
Sort of. I think there's a couple different aspects to it.
Mhm.
One of which is far worse than the others. So I
Yeah.
think that are you familiar with like the controversy surrounding the change the cover hashtag with the Batgirl cover
Uh,
and or the Pillars of Eternity,
is that the rapey one?
the Killing Joke? Yeah,
Yeah, the one where he's holding Batgirl and she looks terrified and he's got his fingers pointed at her head or something.
yeah. And he's got a gun next to her head.
Yeah, I mean, like, uh, excuse me. Uh, yeah, I'm familiar with it.
So when I see campaigns like this to change a work of art or to change a video game, which I would consider video games to be works of art. They're not necessarily the best art in the world. Some of them are though, and some of them aren't. But just like there's bad movies out there that are just terrible. I don't think people would take away their status as art.
Hmm.
But when I see these campaigns to change these aspects of it, I think that they're relying on social pressure in order to pressure the publisher or to pressure the developer or to pressure the artist into
Yeah.
changing their project, not because their ideas are better, but because they're using mass shaming to pressure people into doing it. So, for instance, if these people who disagreed with the Batgirl cover or disagreed with the Pillars of Eternity and how they did it, I would have no problem whatsoever if they sent an email to the developer, or if they decided to post on the forums and say, hey, here's how I think you could do this better, and the developer reads the post or reads the email and they say, you know what, that's actually a really good idea. I hadn't considered that, and they decided to change it.
Mhm.
That's perfectly fine. That is the developer deciding that, hey, you know what, this is a good criticism. But when you have a bunch of people trying to pressure them at once, then it's no longer relying on the weight of your ideas. It's no longer relying on the strength of your ideas to convince them.
It's
It's
relying on
relying on
harassment.
shaming and borderline harassment. Yes,
Yeah.
or I'm not sure I'd call it harassment though.
Yeah. Well, we've hashed that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but and especially when you get all of your Twitter followers to contact them, and it becomes a campaign to do it, then you're really, I think, crossing the line. You're not
Mhm.
just relying on the strength of your ideas to convince the person. You're trying to shame them so that they conform.
Yeah. Yeah. But like in particular to the Killing Joke cover, or the cover that uh the Batgirl cover. Um like it was supposed to be a tribute to the Killing Joke, and like it seemed like the takeaway they got from the Killing Joke is that this is the comic where Batgirl gets, gets sexually assaulted, instead of like any of the other themes that made the Killing Joke so good. If it was just, Batgirl getting fucked up, then it wouldn't, like, nobody would care, or nobody would like it, but the themes of uh like it only takes one bad day to make somebody go ape shit, and all this other stuff just kind of, it felt like this person took all that, took all the nuance and the message, everything that the Killing Joke represented, and they tossed it aside, and they were like, no, actually the Killing Joke was about Batgirl getting, sexually assaulted. And I feel like that kind of betrays uh his like the way he thinks about this comic, I guess.
Oh, that
Or at
that
least
may
I don't know what he's thinking or what he was thinking when he did that. Maybe he was like, okay, what can I do for this Batgirl alternate cover? And it was like, well, I like the Killing Joke, and this thing happened to Batgirl in the Killing Joke, and maybe that's what his thought process was behind it. But I think like the optics of it was like very, very iffy, you know?
right, and that's perfectly fine. You can have any number of opinions about it. That's perfectly reasonable, perfectly fine.
Mhm.
Nobody's saying that someone should be forced to like something or forced to spend their money on it. And you can criticize that thing, and you
Right.
could refuse to spend your money on that thing, and you could do those things. That's perfectly fine. I don't think anybody really has an issue with that. But I
And I
think
and
where
I think
people,
after the backlash, sorry, I didn't mean to.
okay, I'll finish real quick then.
Okay, go ahead.
What I was going to say was, I think that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly reasonable. But once you say, "Oh, you should take this out," or "Oh, you have to take this out," that's when it goes too far. Especially when you've got, not just an email saying, "Here's how you could do better," but just a
Uh,
campaign on social media to put enough pressure on them to change it.
yeah, and I think for the guy who made that cover, like I don't remember exactly, but like didn't he wasn't he like after the kerfuffle, he was like, yeah, okay, this was bad on my part. I just wanted to make a tribute to my favorite comic or whatever.
I don't remember what his exact statement was, and if he legitimately changed his mind, then
Mhm.
that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I don't really have a problem with that. But I think that the process they used to get him to change his mind was
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, and I mean, like most of the time it just starts with somebody riffing on something sexist somebody's done. Like, yeah, you know how Sargon makes his videos, and it's a very particular style, just kind of like, look at what this stupid person did today. Like, there's a lot of that uh, in the SJW so-called movement, where it's like, oh, look at this weirdo, and you know, they're jokey, haha. This guy, has rape on the brain or something, and people share that, and it gets dragged around, and people start tweeting at this guy and emailing him, telling him what an asshole he is and what an oppressive jerk he is. And I think the intention isn't to be like an inquisitorial type thing. Like most of the SJWs I know are like mostly just poking fun at these people, and it ends up like becoming like a twister of outrage
Well, I
and
think
ridicule.
I think you're right. That a lot of people in the social justice community do see it that way, but I think there's also a lot of people in that community who don't. Are you familiar with the Vice Waypoint article on Final Fantasy 14?
Um, Vice Waypoint. I'm not.
1 second. I can send you a link to the video I did. It
Sure.
covers creative freedom. It was a guest video I did on somebody else's channel, but uh, basically the Vice Waypoint article. I can pull up an exact quote so I don't misquote him. Hang on.
Okay. While you're doing that, I'll answer something I see in the chat here. Apparently, Poison Ivy um, sexually assaults Batman and Robin, or in Batman and Robin. They're talking about the movie, and no one's protesting her. And I, I I don't know. I mean, the movie's pretty old and it's not relevant anymore, and everyone wants to think it's a bad dream. So I think that's
So
just enough, right?
give me 1 second. And this is going to touch upon the second aspect of it a little bit, which is not the campaigns, but this idea. This idea that is somewhat prevalent in the gaming journalism community and in the social justice community, I'd say, that certain types of games promote harmful messages to society, and that, or at least they contain elements that do, and that these elements should either be put in games less or not put in there at all. And I'm going to pull up the exact quote here.
I'm trying to figure out how that has anything to do with Final Fantasy 14 because, like,
okay, I got to screen share this real quick. This is by
like
Mike Diver.
I've played Final Fantasy 14 for like the first few years, and I was like it's actually really good about, you know.
I'm sorry, 15. Gosh, I'm sorry.
Oh, 15. 15. Okay.
So he said,
no, it's okay.
My biggest negative, that was my fault. My biggest
No,
negative from my time so far with Final Fantasy 15 is Cindy. Okay, that's his opinion. Perfectly fine. She was in the Duske demo, attired as she is here, a single loose thread away from indignity. Okay, that's his opinion. No real issue there. I disagree with him, but whatever. I remember back then thinking, surely Square will see how people react to this girl's lack of sensible coverage. She's a mechanic, for crying out loud. A line of work where you're regularly handling substances you really don't want on your exposed skin, and respond accordingly. But nope. And I think that right there hints at the mindset that a lot of people in the social justice community have. They believe that if they make a big enough deal about something, then the companies will change what is in the game. They'll take the content out, or they'll change it to appease them.
I don't know. Like I feel like well, I don't know. I can't read this guy's mind, and maybe I'm just being too charitable, but like I think he's just generally surprised that there's no more like there wasn't too much criticism about it. And I mean it's ridiculous to me too, as much as Final Fantasy games are ridiculous. It's really weird to see somebody dressed like that who's not, like if she were like a model on a photo shoot for like a car, like a mechanics magazine, that would seem a lot more appropriate. But like she's
a fictional game character, and it's not like Final Fantasy doesn't have plenty of sexy characters.
And I mean, I'm not saying that every game has to make sense. I mean, look at Final Fantasy VII. That game makes no sense. Or Final Fantasy VIII. Like, not making sense isn't like the worst thing you could possibly do, but like, it seems like pandering just for the sake of boobies.
Yeah,
basically.
and that's fine if they wanted to do that. They did that with Final Fantasy VII as well. Tifa is very large-breasted, as you may have noticed.
Yeah, but like they didn't have. It kind of fit her barmaid aesthetic. Like you could kind of see like this wasn't like traditional battle gear, but you could kind of see how it would be fine. Just her going into battle from just getting off of her shift at Seventh Heaven or whatever.
The thing about Cindy, though, is, and I think the chat rightly recognizes this, she's got a very good reason for being that scantily clad. She breathes through her skin, okay?
Oh.
But you also have Anita Sarkeesian, She's sorry, I could not help myself.
It's
She
okay.
said in her Women as Reward video that these harmful stereotypes about women, or sorry, let me get the exact quote. 1 second.
I should show you a picture that I drew a while back of the end from Metal Gear Solid 3 wearing Quiet's like bathing suit thing.
I've seen cosplayers wear her suit, male
Uh,
cosplayers too.
nice. Very nice. I approve, obviously.
Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm trying to find the exact timestamp. End quote. Sorry for the there.
No, it's okay. I I just it just occurred to me you're probably not apologizing to me.
Well, you or the chat. Damn it, I can't find the exact. But basically, the quote was
uh,
more or less that these harmful stereotypes about women, uh, these stereotypes about women are harmful to women in the real world.
mhm.
It's this idea that video games or certain video game elements are harmful to women in the real world, and that the same, I guess, could apply to men, to black people, to white people, to anything that is perceived to be a negative stereotype in a video game. That doesn't just affect the game. To them, it promotes harmful stereotypes in the real world or reinforces them at least.
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm completely on board with that. I think it reinforces like the belief that, you know, that games should have like if it has a female that they should be sexy. Uh like you can't like there's less room for or less desire for women who work as mechanics but don't look like pinup models.
Well, people in general, they want to see attractive people in their media, and I think that that's
Uh,
fine. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. You see it in movies, you see it, and I mean, when you pay money to go to the movies, you don't want to see the average Joe. You want to see this super sexy action hero, whether that's a guy or a girl, and you want to see them kicking ass, doing completely unrealistic things, and that's sort of what you're paying for. You don't want to see some, fat guy in a jumpsuit.
um, yeah, there is that argument, but like, I don't know, like we action heroes. Like this is a whole other discussion about, you know, like what's the word I'm searching for? Like uh, the male fantasy or like power fantasy, male power fantasy versus uh, the objectification of women or the male gaze or something like that. Here,
You know,
I'm
I,
gonna link you to
I'm
the
not a
picture I
homophobe
made.
or anything, but I don't have a problem with male gaze. I'm not a big fan of male gaze, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just not my cup of tea. No.
Um, how do I send a link here?
You can send it to me. The public chat
Yeah,
won't let other
I'll just.
people send links, but I can post it in there for you.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to send you anything on here.
Do you see the
Um,
blue box with the lines on it?
no, I think I got it.
That should
Cool.
open the chat up.
There we go.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and open this up. Okay. But the way I see it, if you want to make a video game or a movie or whatever it happens to be, I posted in the
Uh,
chat by the way. Then
okay.
if you want to make a
It's not
less
safe for work,
less
by the
sexy
way.
person,
Sorry.
a less sexy character in the game, or a
Mhm.
less sexy. Oh my god, I cannot talk. A less sexy actor in the movie or actress in the movie, then that's fine too. And if people want it, if there's a market for that, then it will be successful. And if you want there to be more media like that, then you should either create it or you could financially support it by either backing the movie on Kickstarter, backing the video game on Kickstarter, or financially supporting the game by buying the game. And then you're creating a market for that type of game to be made, and more games like that will be made in the future.
Yeah, and that ties into the whole game dev creative freedom sort of thing that I need more time to really unpack. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
But you know, if people just they just want to buy more products that have sexy characters in it, and you know that a attractive looking man or an attractive looking woman is going to make your movie sell more than if they were just your average Joe or your average Jane,
Mhm.
then you know companies will do that because it's going to make them more money.
That's the concept that sex sells, right?
Right.
I think like I don't remember exactly the study, but they
I know what you're talking about. It was about commercials.
um I think so.
Yeah, where it actually sex doesn't really sell in commercials necessarily.
Yeah.
People are more likely to remember the commercial, but they aren't necessarily more likely to remember the product being associated with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I guess yeah, that is more for like commercials and stuff like that. But
I mean, I suppose that could apply to movies too, but I haven't seen any studies that looked at sexy characters in movies versus non-sexy characters in movies.
yeah,
Well, I guess
yeah,
TV shows like you've got Lost, which has you know Hugo, a very large man.
hmm
You know, and you've also got attractive characters in that show too, I guess. But
Oh, you mean like the main character?
Jack,
No, John Locke.
John. Oh, okay, he's the main character.
No, I'm
Okay, we'll
kidding.
go with that.
I'm kidding. But yeah, Jack's very conventionally attractive.
Right, but you also have characters like Hurley. I'm sorry, Hurley was the name of
Really? Yeah.
the bigger character, and he obviously isn't conventionally attractive. But I don't think people
hmm
disliked his story anymore.
Right. Right. Like would his story have been improved by making him like super attractive?
Actually, that would probably detract from his story a little bit because part
Yeah.
of his story was him struggling with his weight.
Yep.
So that probably
Well,
actually make it.
like have a very attractive overweight man. I don't know.
There would be very few people like that, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, at least you know some people might find that attractive. I'm not saying some people wouldn't.
Well, yeah.
I think
Like
most people would probably be like, yeah, most fat people. Like, not talking like 20 pounds overweight or 50 pounds overweight. We're talking
yeah.
like 200 pounds over.
Right. Um.
Did you want to take questions from the chat, or is there something you wanted to
Yeah.
bring up?
That's you read my mind. That's exactly what I was going to say. Let's take some questions from the chat and
There's about a
I'll let
1 minute delay. So,
no, it's fine.
uh, in the meantime, do you know if I ask, what did you think of the debate last night between myself and Helicopter Guy?
Uh, I think it was fun. I like I would have like a lot of people were like, I wish that like I hope that we'd talk about GamerGate soon. And like I was like, I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but like I kind of spaced out through a lot of it too. So I don't know. It was I think it was a good discussion. He was very it was just that he was very uh extra. Like he was
He was
so
very
extra.
assertive in his views, or
Yeah.
aggressive even.
Yeah. I don't like tacos. You can call me a Nazi for that if you want. I'm never gonna like tacos.
Someone said earlier that I'm the boss in Wolfenstein 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't gotten past a certain part in that game yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if I saw you in there.
My character will be shouting, "Actually, it's about ethics in games journalism."
I could do that thing that the Golden One does in his Skyrim videos and be like, "Oh, look, it was nice of that SJW to run in front of my gun and get shot with my bullets." Stuff like that.
What about burritos? Ryan asks.
What about burritos? It depends. I can't handle spicy stuff, but like sometimes if I'm in the mood for a burrito, I'll have a burrito and it'll be good, but not really.
Do we have any questions that are actually relevant?
Yeah. No, I don't mind these questions. Like, I mean, if you have like 90 hours, I can go off on, Final Fantasy.
Oh,
Like I
I
could
don't think
talk for
that'll
a
be
million.
necessary.
Soft shell to catch the feeling that drops from the hard shell. Yeah. I mean, that'd be great if I liked tacos, but I don't.
Taquitos.
Taquitos. I've never had a taquito.
Have you played?
It,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
I'm reading one here. Have you played Mario Odyssey? No.
I haven't yet. I want to, but like money is getting kind of sketchy right now, and I've spent my money this month already for like some retro game stuff. Like I've got a reproduction of Final Fantasy 2 and 3 coming. Yeah.
What do you think of the Uncanny Valley movie, also known as The Spirits Within?
Okay. Oh God, that was fucking awful. Like I liked it. Like I bought it when it first came out. And I was like, yeah, I want to like this. And I like for a while I was just kind of trying to make excuses for it. And eventually I just kind of realized this is dumb.
Advent Children was better.
Yeah. I like Advent Children. And I also love pineapple on pizza. You can call me
Best,
Nazi for that too.
best slash. Remember Pineapple Gate or Pizzagate?
Yeah.
Not
Pizzagate.
no. So
well,
no,
no, not
not
Pizzagate.
the no. There was a Pizzagate. There was a Pizzagate before the Comet Ping Pong
Oh.
thing.
Oh, okay.
And it was Brianna Wu, I think. She said, "Pineapple on pizza, is that some kind of threat or something like that?"
Best.
And then some people started tweeting Pizzagate.
My favorite Elder Scrolls race is the Khajiit because I love cats and I love that meme where it's like this. I think it's like a cougar getting dragged away and it's like Khajiit did nothing. Khajiit is not guilty of this crime or whatever. I don't know the exact wording, but
Favorite Star Trek species?
I'm not that big into Star Trek, so I'm not too particular. I mean, I guess Klingons are cool, I guess. Sorry if that's not a very good answer.
God, that's a tough question. I almost went to say Bajorans because they had that. They had a pretty interesting story arc in DS9.
I have no idea what that is.
Khajiit has the wares if you have the coin.
Yes, he does. I might like Caitians. Is that a Star Trek species?
Liviana says Romulans because, of course.
Of course, Romulans.
Do we have any GamerGate related questions?
Yeah.
Or politics related questions? I know you're a big fan of Trump. We could ask you what makes you want to make America great again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Build that wall. And
build the wall. Lock her up. Lock
Yeah.
her up.
Lock up the wall. Put the
How would
wall
you
in
say?
jail.
How would you say President Trump is doing so far?
I I try not to pay attention to that because I'm depressed as it is, and I constantly worry about global warming and the end of the world, and I don't need Trump in my life. But from what I've heard, he's just the stupidest goddamn president we've ever had. He
That's
like
probably not an
he
accurate.
makes me wish he makes me miss W. Bush. Just like W. Bush killed a whole bunch of people. Like he went to Iraq for shitty reasons, but like, goddamn.
Well, who
Let's
knew
see.
healthcare could be so complicated?
Oh yeah, I know. My question was too long. IG, my question was too long. Oh yeah, triples. I remember triples.
Hey, Elko Studio, how you doing?
It doesn't look like we have any really GamerGate related questions.
No, we could probably close down the stream in a couple minutes if you want.
Okay. Yeah, it's all up to you. I'm on your clock. Did Elko Studio just come into the stream?
Yeah, I think
Like,
so. I didn't
oh,
see his comments earlier. If he was, oh, he asked a question. He said, "Oh,
oh,
sorry. Do you think maybe the next GamerGate needs to needs? I'm sorry that
needs to ethics in game
needs.
publishers
I guess
and
needs to address ethics in game publishing, and studios due to them overpricing and downgrading games like what EA and Ubisoft does."
okay, I think the question he's trying to ask is, does Gamergate is Nazis? And the question is yes.
Yes.
Or
Okay. So
the answer is yes. No,
should
I'm
should
kidding.
GamerGate or a future GamerGate focus on publisher issues? I would say no. I know that's gonna be kind of controversial. I know the
I think
Hatman and others wanted to focus on
I
that.
think if we have another Gamergate, it should be focused on it should definitely be focused on
On
publisher
harassing women.
issues. Well, also that, but I mean, you can't have a Gamergate without harassing women. Let's just be
Exactly.
honest. But we should, even if it's not Gamergate, we need to kind of focus on some of the more shady aspects of game development these days, like the microtransactions that are specifically geared to milk people for all they're worth, like Skinner box effect kind of bullshit. That's
Yeah, I disagree there.
basically go subscribe to the Jimquisition because he's the best and I love him and I want to be with him forever.
I think that the free market should decide. And if you don't like microtransactions in games, then don't buy the games, don't play the games, don't give them your money.
Yeah, well, I mean that, but also like they're they're targeting people who maybe aren't aware of this kind of thing and um uh yeah, get at me on Twitter and I'll follow you back. But like these are like the people they're targeting, these so-called whales. They don't like they play these games without really, paying attention to uh people. I don't even know what I'm saying, but
I mean, they're
like,
targeting children, and
yeah, I mean they're targeting not just children but people with like gambling issues who don't know about them, you know.
well, I mean, I think people with gambling issues know there's a risk. Everybody knows there's a risk that you could get hooked on this.
I'm talking about people with gambling issues who don't know they have gambling issues, like people who have an addictive personality but maybe don't know it, or they don't care, or something. And like my what I'm saying is, like, we regulate gambling. Uh, we have regulations when it comes to gambling, even like whether if it's just like whether we allow it um or not. Like, we have regulations on that, but what this is turning into is a way to use gaming as a platform for unregulated gambling. And my favorite Pokemon is Gardevoir.
So, Duke Nukem, yes, you're right. Some gamers did harass some gamers did harass GamerGate. I almost said that. Some gamers did harass Anita Sarkeesian. That's absolutely true. I don't think that that's something that the GamerGate community supports, though.
I
And
think
I'm,
I think I
but
think that's a given.
the gaming community at large did react to Anita Sarkeesian with a lot of hostility, and I think that there's a lot of legitimate critiques of her work.
Yeah.
But
I
I
mean,
think some people took it maybe a little too far in gaming.
um well, I'm like, here's the thing. Anita Sarkeesian did a lot of her feminist frequency videos in relative obscurity until she announced that she was doing the tropes versus women in video games thing, and then it just blew up with all this backlash the minute she even indicated that she was going to talk about video games in the same way that she talked about like movies and television or whatever else she was talking about.
Well, the gaming community is probably a lot more united than the
Mhm.
movie community.
Yeah,
We have forums. Like, you don't see a lot of movie forums where you just talk about any type of movie. You might have specific genre forums, but you don't really have
yeah,
like. But we have gaming forums. You got Reddit. You've got Twitch live streamers. All of these different people, and there's a lot of interaction even across
yeah.
game genres.
Well, I mean, it's an interactive medium, so there's a lot more interaction, and therefore a lot of people are investing themselves into it, and there's a lot more identity around that. And I get that.
We've also got two questions here about the NBC video on GamerGate. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that yet. I need to watch it.
It's pretty bad. I'll probably do a video response at some point, hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Basically, they
Isn't that
tried
what
to.
you were going to work on after this?
No, that was the
Oh, okay.
Economist video.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
But basically, they did two things in the video. They screenshotted a bunch of tweets aimed at Anita Sarkeesian
Mm,
and said that they were GamerGate tweets. But
yeah.
all the tweets were from egg accounts, and they did not use the GamerGate hashtag.
Yeah.
And they put the GamerGate hashtag on them as if to imply that they were GamerGate tweets. Uh, which I'm not saying that
I
those tweets weren't
think,
harassing. I'm just
was that a
saying you
recent
can't
video?
try to. Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 days ago. And then
Mm.
they also said that the GamerGate community and Discord led to the rise of the alt right.
Yeah, I don't know about that bit, but I think they were just simulating, like they were recreating these tweets
Well,
because,
they were real
like,
tweets though. They took real tweets, and then they added the GamerGate
oh,
hashtag. They superimposed.
they were
Yeah,
real tweets.
they were tweets that Anita Sarkeesian tweeted out
Okay.
as proof of her harassment.
Mhm.
But then she took whoever the NBC person was.
Yeah.
They put GamerGate on the screenshot, even though the original tweets didn't have GamerGate on them.
Yeah, and like there's no real way to prove conclusively whether or not these people were in Gamergate or aligned themselves with Gamergate. But like, I feel like if you're a Gamergater who wanted to, wanted to threaten Anita Sarkeesian, would you do it with the same account that you tweet GamerGate at, considering that they there's this whole thing where they where they're very concerned about optics?
If we were an actual harassment campaign, why would we be concerned about optics? We'd want to be as scary as possible, wouldn't we? We'd want to go out there and make people think that we're the devil and instill fear in them, right? That's what we would do if we were.
I don't think so. Like,
if we were trying to scare people, why wouldn't we try to be scary?
Because there's an issue of because if you were that, you'd be much easier to dismiss and say, oh, these people are just, awful people who have no point. But there was a concerted effort to basically and this isn't all GamerGaters. There are a lot of GamerGaters who are purely about ethics, and they like if what they wanted was met, they had no problem with Kotaku or Polygon still being a thing. But like, there was a current of GamerGaters who basically were aiming to destroy Kotaku. And I think there are still people in there like that who just want to see Kotaku and Polygon gone. Whether they update their ethics policies or not.
Right, and I'm sure there are people, of all political stripes. I'm sure a lot of people on the left would like to see Breitbart gone.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
And that's I'm sure that they think of themselves as good people, and they probably think of themselves as pro free speech even.
Mm-hmm.
And well, they've just taken things a little bit.
Depends on what you're talking about when you say free speech, but
well, they don't want the government to interfere with speech, probably.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Anything for me?
Thanks, you guys.
Oh, do you have any questions for me before we close down?
Do I have any questions?
Yeah.
Will you be my best friend?
Sure. not an answer that instills confidence.
Yeah, you're kind of a milk toast on that one. But it's a tepid response. But yeah, it was good chatting with you and you guys in the chat as well.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for watching, everybody, too.
All right. Bye, guys.
Good night.
Good night.